Hello, and welcome to this presentation on the subject of leadership and business management. My name is Ben, and I am a third-year business management student at Middlesex, and I also work as a senior student learning assistant. For a bit of context, a student learning assistant is a student that did particularly well in a module, so was asked to come back and actually support the teaching of that module. So, in this presentation, we're going to hope to take you through the study of business management at university, as well as the different pathways you can take. We're also going to tell you about what it's like to study leadership at university, as well as how I developed my leadership through my student learning assistant role. So firstly, to study business at university, we normally require grades that are around 112 UCAS points. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of about BBC at A levels, which is actually the offer that I was given, or distinction merit at BTEC. So we offer 9 different business management courses. There's pure business management, which is what I studied. You can also do it with a business specialization, such as with finance, with human resource management, with innovation and entrepreneurship, with marketing, with project management, or with supply chain and logistics. You can also do it with a language specialization, such as with Mandarin or with Spanish. So now, before we get into it, I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. So originally, I wasn't actually that sure of going to university. I had to weigh up my different options. I was kind of looking at maybe doing an apprenticeship or maybe even going straight to work. Eventually, I decided that what was best for my education and for my development really was university. So then after that, I had to look at various different universities. Well, I looked at, say, Westminster, Queen Mary's, King's, Greenwich, Kingston. But eventually, I realized that Middlesex was my favorite, so I put that as my third choice. In terms of my past relevant experience coming into university, I had studied A-level business before, and I think it's important to note that while this was helpful, it wasn't essential. The degree is really good at making sure that everyone's brought up to speed in their first year because A, not everyone studied business before, and B, even if they have, they've studied it at different levels, different exam boards, different syllabus. So if you haven't studied business before, don't let that discourage you. I also had 2 periods of relevant work experience. One was working for a public relations firm, and the other was working in the business arm of the Disney company. Again, helpful, but not essential. Coming into university, I had some skills, and I had some that I really wished to develop. So leadership was a really big one for me. Obviously, that influenced my course decision for business management. It was something that I had some degree of experience with, as I was the president of my college's business society. However, I knew I had so much more to sort of work on and develop. I was also a very self-motivated student, but I really wanted to work on my sort of ability to create my own study patterns and develop my independence, as I felt that at college and at secondary, they were very hands-on, so I didn't really have the opportunity to do that. I actually found the swap from A levels to university really difficult. I went from a sort of course that was very exam based to university where it's a mix of coursework and exams. As a result, I was quite nervous about the coursework aspect and I was very worried that I was going to fail. I was actually considering dropping out of university after only 2 months. So what I did was I sat down with my friends and we discussed it and we were like, okay, well, I'm going to give myself till December and I'm going to keep trying. And with that, I also utilized some of the support that the university offered, which I'm going to touch on a bit later. And as a result, as you can probably tell, I didn't drop out. And I managed to get first class grades on all of my modules, which is the highest grade you can get. After my first year, I was recommended by my lecturers to become a student learning assistant. Then in my third year, I was promoted to become a senior SLA, which was really vital at putting some of this leadership stuff I learned about into practice, which we're going to touch on in the next slide. Lastly, I was actually able to secure a master's place at the university. At university, I've been able to develop an amazing network of friends, not only through the SLA role, but also through smaller seminar classes that will run alongside lectures. I think these friends were really vital at making me feel at home and sort of giving me morale boost at university, but also in terms of academics, they were amazing at sort of bouncing ideas off, even if they're in different sort of sides of business or in different academic schools completely. It's been really good to have this sort of network of friends to sort of talk about work with and sort of bounce ideas off. So as I mentioned, in my second year, I worked as a student learning assistant And then in my third year, I was promoted to work as a senior student learning assistant. As a senior, it was my job to be the first point of contact for a number of SLAs. It was also my job to sort of lead, mentor, and guide them. This duty extended to organizing and carrying out SLA training sessions, carrying out observations of SLAs where I'd actually sit in on their classes and then follow up with developmental feedback and advice. I think both of these duties really help sort of make sure that SLAs were able to develop to their full potential. Lastly, just because I was in this position of leadership didn't mean that I couldn't develop it further. And the last sort of role as a senior SLA I had was having weekly meetings with the other senior SLAs where we would bring up issues that we had and then sort of talk collaboratively about, well, what are some solutions to these problems? I think leadership in the context of being an SLA was really about motivating my group of SLAs towards the common goal of supporting students as well as we could. I felt the leadership qualities that I possessed that really made that possible was that I was empathetic and relatable to them, as I'd previously worked as an SLA. So I sort of understood what their role sort of entailed and what they'd be going through, but also because I had a great deal of positivity and drive regarding the role, as I felt very passionately and very strongly about how important it was. I think that kind of motivation that I had sort of brushed up on them. But why was my approach so successful? Well, that's something that you're going to be learning about in your degree. A big part of sort of learning about management and leadership is discussing why some approaches work in some contexts and why some don't. In this case, you're going to be applying sort of the leadership theories that you learn to real life scenarios. You're also going to be having theoretical discussions such as, are leaders born or are they made? You're also going to look at why different strategies work in different organizations and in different scenarios. I think while you're doing this, it's really important to keep in mind the kind of leader that you want to be. Look for qualities that you admire in others and sort of look within yourself and see if any of your own qualities mirror that, or maybe you have qualities that they don't have. For me, my opportunity to develop my leadership skills came from the SLA scheme, but that's not the only way you can do so. You can work in a society or even create your own. You can work in the student union, or you can work as a student voice leader who represents the cohort of a module. So now going on to sort of more general stuff, I want to talk about the different types of coursework that you can expect. Firstly, you're going to have essays. This revolves around the critical thinking I was talking about earlier, where you sort of weigh up pros and cons, you talk about counter arguments, and you'll be reading a lot of journal articles and kind of making sense of what they're saying and condensing it and putting it in your own words. This is a skill I did not possess at all coming into university, but since I feel very comfortable doing. Presentations are another big part of it. I think this covers a lot of different fields you'll have to do presentations. This works on your public speaking as well as your design and creativity. Presentations was something that I found very daunting coming into university, but it's something that I really had to work on. And you have a nice sort of staggered amount of opportunities to do so throughout your degree. And for me, it really helped me build my confidence. And now I'm much more comfortable giving presentations than I was when I started. Group work is also a very vital part of any degree. Teamwork is really important, so you know how to work with others, how to bounce off ideas, and sometimes how to compromise. That's really important. But there are going to be cases where you're going to take the lead. And I think, again, this is another very practical way you can build your leadership skills, because there are going to be cases where maybe you are taking more of a driving force in a group work. Again, this is really sort of practical, real-world implications, as in most jobs, you will have to work with other people. Finally, and this is a bit more business-centric, you have reports. So reports tend to revolve around the practical side of business, and sort of a really good example of this is conducting company and industry analysis. This is something that I did in my second year when I did an industry analysis on the soft drink industry in the UK, followed up by a company report on Coca-Cola. For this, you're going to be utilizing the latest news, which is going to kind of test your business news knowledge, as well as utilizing some of the databases that the university subscribe to. An example of which is Mintel, which specializes in marketing reports. So now, I wanted to talk about my course in particular, which is business management. Business management looks to give you a comprehensive yet broad view of the management and leadership of multiple areas of modern business. This includes finance, strategy, human resource management, a lot of different areas. And for me, it was this sort of broadness that kind of made me gravitate towards the course because as much I really enjoyed business as a whole, but I didn't particularly lean towards a certain field. For me, it was this kind of breadth that really made me draw to it. Another thing that's really good, as I touched on before, is that it does a really good job of mixing theoretical and then applying it to practical. So there's not going to be a case where you learn about a model or a theory and then don't see how it actually gets applied, which for me was a really big problem at college because I'd learn about all these models and theories, but we wouldn't get cases like we do in university where we'd see how it actually applies. So for me, I actually had quite a mixed bag of qualifications coming in. I did really well in business and politics, which were my exam-based subjects, and not so well in history, which was course-based. So if maybe you find that your grades aren't what you really want them to be coming into university, that doesn't mean you can't do well. So I actually held a few preconceived expectations coming into university. I was really worried that it would be very individual, as I was kind of worried. I think I had this perception that all the classes were going to be 200, 300 people lecture halls, and I wouldn't really talk with my peers that much. As an extension of that, I was very worried that lecturers would also be distant and that they certainly would never talk to you out of class, never reply to emails or look at your work. Ultimately, I was really worried that I'd be left on my own. The reality of that couldn't be much more different. There are a lot of opportunities to collaborate and work with your peers. As I mentioned before, you have group work, which again is really vital at kind of working with your teamwork and leadership abilities. You're also going to have seminars, which are smaller classes that will run alongside your lectures. You're very much independent in that you're treated as an adult. No lecturers are going to chase you about how you're doing on work and if you miss a class. But that doesn't mean you're left on your own. The university offers excellent support services. If you look at the post-it note on the top of the screen, I listed a few of them. So you have student learning assistants, such as myself, who are going to be present in your classes. You also have the learning enhancement team, who are really good at helping you with academic writing, how to approach different types of coursework, as well as numerical help, say if you're struggling with an accounting or statistics module. It's also important to note that in the wake of COVID-19, all of these services will still be available online because the university wanted to make sure that despite everything going on, you've still got the absolute top level of support. Another thing that's important to note about these services is that you have to be proactive in seeking them out. Your lecturers will make aware that these services do exist. Sometimes they'll even come into your classes and give little presentations. But it's up to you to actually go out and see if they help. You need to contact them. You need to email them. They're not going to come after you. You have to be proactive in seeking out that support. So I really wanted to bring up this quote in particular, which is that your past does not equal your future, because I feel this very much applies to university. When you start university, it's very much a blank slate. It doesn't matter what grades you had before. It doesn't matter if you don't have maybe much experience in leadership. What you do in university matters. I've seen a lot of people coming into university with quite poor grades in the past, not really much leadership sort of experience, and then put in a lot of effort and get out a lot of university. So they work hard, they apply themselves, they apply to be an SLA, they get the job, and they do really well. So I think it's important to note that if in the past you haven't done so well academically and you haven't really put yourself out there, that doesn't stop you from doing it at university and really making a difference. University is very much a blank slate, and your past does not equal your future. Extending on that, I wanted to give you a few final words of advice and recommendation. So firstly, I'd say have a goal. When you start university, set yourself a goal, whether it's sort of leadership role based or if it's academic based. This will really help you when you're working to know what it's all for. So you know why you're working on this assignment, why you're studying, why you're going to this 9 a.m. class. It really helps motivate you. Secondly, aim high. if you're good enough to be at the university, you're good enough to be getting first, you're good enough to be getting SLA, student union, student voice leader positions. Don't settle for something mediocre. Go like as high as you can. Thirdly, and this is very important, is work out how to achieve your goal. It's all well and good saying, I want to get all first and I want to be a senior student learning assistant. If you don't sort of work out the study habits and utilize the support, it's not going to happen. So make sure you work out what works for you and utilize relevant support. The fourth point, and I think this one's really interesting, is start how you want to finish. A few friends of mine were talking the other day, and one of our friends had just recently started university. One of our biggest pieces of advice to him was take first year seriously. A problem that a lot of students find themselves falling into is that they don't take first year very seriously. They think, okay, first year, take it easy. Second year, I'll step it up, and then third year, I'll step it up. However, first year very much sets your tone. And if you take it easy in first year, it's really hard to do that step up in second and third year. So what I'd really sort of implore you to do is set the kind of tone you want to be as a student in your first year, and then it'll be much easier to carry it on. And lastly, as an extension of that, is stay focused. Keep that pace up, keep your goal in mind, and keep working hard throughout university. I want to say an absolutely massive thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. I hope you took something out of this. Please take care. All the best.